Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my pregnant ex-fiancée money after she left me for another man? 3 years ago, my ex-fiancée, 31, left me, 33 male, for another man just a few months before our wedding. We had been together for 5 years and I was completely blindsided. She moved in with him almost immediately and they cut contact with me unless it was about splitting up our shared finances and apartment. I was devastated, but I feel like I have finally moved on. Now out of nowhere, she reached out. Turns out the guy she left me for dumped her after finding out she got pregnant. She's struggling financially and has asked if I could help her out. Specifically, she wants money to cover rent. She says she has nowhere else to turn and that she wouldn't ask if she wasn't desperate. I have the money. I'm in a much better place financially and emotionally than I was back then. I put all my energy into improving myself after what happened, but I don't see why I should give her anything. Some friends are saying I'm being selfish, but I don't see why her choices should be my problem now. Still, part of me does feel guilty. 5 years is a long time, and I did love her. So am I the asshole for refusing to help her? Edit. Giving her the money wouldn't be a financial issue for me. I could lose that amount and not even notice. My friends know this, which is why they think I'm being selfish for not helping. Not the a-hole. You're not her partner, parent, or safety net. She ended the relationship and built a new one. The consequences of that choice aren't yours to carry just because you can afford to. You have money doesn't equal you owe money. Also, giving her rent now invites future asks and emotional entanglement, especially with a baby involved, that will mess with your hard-won stability. Hell, she might even shee you for child support because you voluntarily took a role in providing stability to the child. If you feel compassion, you can point her to resources, WIC, rental assistance, legal aid, shelters, family friends, or at most, pay a small one-time amount directly to a landlord/utility with a clear, this is the only time. But you're fully within bounds to say no. Personally, I think hold your boundary. Now some comments, not the a-hole, this is in no way your problem. You owe her nothing. All your fiends that are calling you selfish, pass along their numbers to her and tell her they are generous and ask them. See how quick their opinion changes. Not the a-hole. She will possibly claim you are the child's father. Do not admit to being the father and do not act as the father. Give her money for the child. In some jurisdictions, this puts you on the hook for child support until the child is an adult, even if you are not biologically related. If there is a claim, demand a paternity test before acting as the father. I hate when people say, it's not your problem. The world thinks this way, and that's why people are suffering the way they are. It's not our problem. Sometimes helping someone out goes a long way, especially if it's not a burden to you. So she left you? Yeah, it sucks, but I imagine you have to be the last person she would ask for help. Someone from your past needs help. They are desperate enough to ask the last person on earth who would help them. They are also presumably responsible for a child. I can't imagine a lower place to be than that. You can be okay with yourself not giving, but that doesn't mean you definitely should not give. I did love her once you said. Good for you both for the love and for remembering it. So someone you once loved needs money and you can afford to give it. Why not? Yes, she treated you badly, and I'm not saying you owe her, but you are also not obliged to continue your resentment or rage. Can you really let it go? If you can, congratulations and give. Story 2. The first time was only emotional, which I used as a shield for years even after my husband found out. I promised to cut contact. I didn't. I tapered it, renamed it, moved it to different platforms, and told myself that because it wasn't physical, I wasn't really doing damage. I was. He just couldn't prove it anymore, and I let that be enough. The second affair is the one that finally broke us. We were abroad for a conference. I invited the AP to join us for a drink with colleagues that I absolutely curated like a date. My husband stood there, invisible, while I lit up for another man. I felt it, how different my face must have looked, and did nothing to stop it. That night my husband called me out. I denied, minimized, and blamed stress. The next evening, he took a train to a nearby town to decompress. I brought the AP to our hotel. That line is where the air leaves the room for anyone reading. It should. I crossed a boundary I can never uncross. It wasn't a lapse. It was a decision. The next months were gaslighting on repeat. I said it wasn't like that. We only talked. You're catastrophizing. I ended it. And a dozen other dishonest things meant to buy me time and keep my husband invested while I figured out how to keep both men in orbit. He found messages where AP discussed how he would leave his wife after he paid off his student loans. Lines about how we'll get through this as adults. His wife still doesn't know. It has been me living in complicity, with his secrecy, with my deception, with my husband's hurt. Part of my story is the lie I told myself, that we could act like adults. By that I meant we could be around each other at work, on projects and events, and be normal. But I also made sure we were on the same projects and events. I didn't remove proximity, I engineered it. When my husband pleaded for no contact, I nodded, then accepted an abroad event slot because the committee already announced it. I told myself boundaries were about intention, not outcome. He, AP, would respect my marriage and give me space, and then he'd volunteer for the same working group or DM me about logistics that didn't need my input. I answered. I always answered. Each innocent spreadsheet became an artery back into the affair. So when people say, be an adult around your AP, I want to be very clear. Adults don't keep testing the edges after years of proving they can't handle contact. Adults remove access. Adults choose the boring, humiliating protections, new jobs, different teams, transparency that ruins your image, instead of clinging to reputation and chemistry. I clung. I chose image. I used professional overlap as cover because it gave me plausible deniability and a hit of dopamine. I can handle it was pride dressed as discipline. And every time my husband's pain quieted, I used the silence to inch the boundary back out. He's right to be done. He told me he's contacting a lawyer. My first reflex was to bargain. One more counseling attempt, full disclosure, I'll resign, I'll inform the AP's wife, I'll do polygraph, I'll do whatever. The truth underneath that list is that I should have done all of those things the day after the conference, the day after the hotel, the day after the messages. I waited until the consequence was imminent to decide I'm ready to be accountable. That's not remorse, that's crisis management. I don't get to decide I'm finally serious about repair on the same day the papers are coming. I can do the right things now, write a disclosure to the AP's wife, remove myself from all shared projects, hand over devices, find a new job, start transparent recovery steps. But the consequence might still be divorce. That's the cost of my choices. If anyone in my position is reading this and hearing the siren song of, we can act like adults, here's the ugly checklist I wish I had respected before I burned it all down. If you've already proven you can't handle contact, contact is the problem, not your wording, not your willpower. Work proximity is not neutral, it's fuel. Remove it or admit you're choosing the fire. Gaslighting creates time, not trust. Every minute you win with a clever explanation becomes evidence against you later. Plans to leave a spouse that take years are not plans. They're a leash. If you're holding one end, you're a handler, not a partner. My husband may be done. I can't ask him to hold the wreckage while I finally find my moral spine. If he divorces me, that will be the most adult act in this story. My job is to tell the truth, accept the outcome, and stop pretending that I'm finally remorseful. Because deep down, I might not be. I know if given the chance, I'd do everything in the same order all over again. Every last appalling thing.